little bit of split personality, and I don't mean that in a clinical sense. I just mean we act differently in different situations, and that's not a bad thing. For instance, Derek's an auditor, right? That means his job is to go and tell everybody what they're doing wrong at work. This is the job. You walk in, you look at what everybody's doing and say, you did this right, you did this wrong, do better. Now, at work, he has to go and be the bad guy. I'm sure he's nice about it, but he has to be the bad guy. But imagine if he behaved the same way at home that he behaves at work. That would not go very well, right? He comes home and goes through Audra's day and says, this is what you did right and this is what you did wrong. And that would not go well. Or if you go to the neighbors, let's check the height of your grass. Let's check how you mowed. Let's check your trash. It wouldn't work. You got to behave differently in some situations than you do in others. That's reasonable. Some of you had to do that a little bit this week, right? Maybe at church or at home, you're pretty open and you're pretty relaxed, but then you go around certain family members and you withdraw. Because you've learned over the years that you have to be a little bit more closed off because they will use things against you if you're open and relaxed. So you shut down a little bit. We live in these separate worlds. I need some tape here. Oh, come on. We even bought the good stuff. You live in these separate worlds. And man, Satan, dude, I've never had tape do this. This is like 4 layers that just peeled off. That's wild. It did it again. This is such a cool illustration, too. Don't you be referencing my sermons. I always need help. We live in these dual worlds, and we have to behave differently in some than others. And you got job you have to behave one way, and another, and you got family you, and you jump back and forth. You got to behave one way in one situation, and another. This is going to bother me. Trash up here. So we've got these situations, and it's okay. It's fine. It's wisdom. Actually, Proverbs talks about this. It says that around a wise person, and a wise person in Proverbs is not just somebody that's smart, but is somebody that fears God and is open to correction. That's a wise person. You behave one way. And around a fool, and that's not a stupid person, but that's someone who does not fear God and is not open to correction. You behave another way. And that's reasonable. You're different in different situations. It's okay to adapt to a point. That over here, you're a little more open, and over here, you're a little more reserved. And over here, you focused on your job, and over here, it's not my business because it's not my job. It's okay. But it becomes a problem when over here you have character and over here you don't. Over here, see, this is why I need the tape. You have integrity and over here you don't. It becomes a problem when you're one person over here because you're around one group of people and you're around a different group of people over here, so you're a different person over here. And it never starts out as, I'm going to be one person over here and another person over here. It always starts out as, I have to adapt to different circumstances. But it grows. Until it's not just, I'm adapting to different circumstances, but I am a totally different person in one circumstance than I am in the other. We live in these separate worlds, and if we're not careful, we become separate people. And we're going through the life of Elijah, and we're looking at him, and he's come out of nowhere. He's this prophet. He's come out of nowhere, and he announced the arrival of this drought. And this drought has come, and he's had to flee for his life. And God took him to this widow, and this widow took the step of faith. And then she came to know God as personally. She came to recognize that he is the supreme God through these steps of faith and a resurrection. And 3.5 years later, God says, okay, it's time to go back. And we pick up on not Elijah, but just a regular guy who shows up nowhere else in the Bible. He's just in a few verses in this chapter. But he's a guy, because of that, I think he's a guy that maybe most of you will identify with more than you identify with Elijah. His name's Obadiah, and that's who we're talking about today. So let's jump in 1 Kings chapter 18, and let's just read through a few verses. 1 Kings chapter 18, starting in verse 1. After many days, the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, go, show yourself to Ahab. He's only one person. To Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. So Elijah went to show himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria. So he says to Elijah some very simple instructions. We're going to talk about this in a couple of weeks. So I'm just going to point it out to you for right now, but I'm going to come back to it in a couple of weeks. Just want you to notice this. We'll come back to it. The instructions that God gives to Elijah are very simple. There's no dramatics here. It's very simple. Go and show yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. Very simple. Ahab has been looking for him. God has protected him from being found. God says, go show yourself to him, and then I will send rain. That's all that was asked of him. He's going to do some like drama club level stuff, but that's not what he was told to do. We'll get to that in a couple of weeks. He says, go to Ahab. I'm going to send rain. So Elijah goes to show himself to Ahab. The famine was severe in Samaria. So Samaria is the capital of the northern kingdom of Israel. Israel started off just not as a kingdom, as 12 tribes in the promised land. God didn't want them to have a king. He just wanted them to be kind of like a libertarian theocracy is what he wanted from them. But they were like, no, we really want to be miserable. We want a king. And God's like, you really don't? And they said, no, we really do. And he said, okay. So he gave them a king, and that didn't work. And so they split into 2 different kingdoms, and you got the southern kingdom, Judah, and the northern kingdom, Israel. Elijah is a prophet to the northern kingdom, Israel. They have a really terrible king who is like the most evil of all the kings that Israel ever had. His name was Ahab. One of the reasons he was so bad is because he married a woman named Jezebel, who is like the definition of an evil queen. She was the daughter of the high priest of Baal from the country that Elijah was hiding in. She's really, really bad. She's just bad, okay? She's an evil, evil lady. And she is there, and Samaria is the capital. And the famine is really bad, not just in the outlying areas, even in the capital, it's really bad. So he's going to go, and he's going to tell them, hey, God's done with this famine. So verse 3, Ahab called Obadiah, who was over the household. Now, Obadiah feared the Lord greatly, and when Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord, Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50s in a cave, and fed them with bread and water. We kind of cut away from that, right? God says to Elijah, okay, leave Sidon, which is the place that he's hiding, the village of Zarephath there. I want you to leave there and go back. Okay, and we got a cut scene. It cuts back to Samaria, where Ahab is like, all right, I got to do something. I got to take care of my animals. So we cut to Ahab, and he's got this guy named Obadiah that works for him. Obadiah is not part of the government. It's not like he's the prime minister or something. He's in charge of the palace. He's Ahab's number one servant, in charge of all the other servants. And he calls him in, and he says, hey, I need you to come in here. We got to make a plan. Now, here's the thing about Obadiah is he's a secret follower of Yahweh. Ahab does not know this. What Obadiah has been doing is he's been, from what the best that we can tell, he's been diverting resources from Ahab to take care of prophets. Because whenever Elijah called down this famine, when he called down this drought that brought about a famine, what they tried to do was to punish Elijah. They tried to find him and kill him, and they couldn't find him. So instead what they did is they started killing all the other prophets. There's two kinds of prophets when we read about prophets in the Old Testament. There's like the prophets you think about, like Elijah. They hear from God and they tell everybody else. There's very few of those. But then there's the rest of the prophets that are more like me, okay? They're not people that hear directly from God and do it, but they're people that spend their lives learning what the Bible says and telling other people what it says. They're like local preachers, local pastors. They don't have churches, but this is the same kind of thing. And so when they couldn't get Elijah, what she did was she sent soldiers out to find all the preachers that she could to torture and kill them. That was what she did. So Obadiah, who's like the house manager of the palace, used the resources that he had to rescue 100 of these guys and hid them in caves. And then he secretly used some of the resources of the palace. That's our best guess. Otherwise, we don't know where we would have got this stuff during the famine. He used his resources to take care of these guys in caves without Ahab knowing what was going on, because Ahab and Jezebel would not have been happy about this. So he's hanging out in the palace. He's taking care of things. He hears Jezebel ranting and raving about this. He hears the plans. Hey, we're going to go kill all these guys. And then maybe he's got some friends that are soldiers. He's got knows some other secret believers. He works out a plan to rescue these guys, hides them in caves, gives them bread and water, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when everybody else is starving to death, give me some bread and water, right? So he hides them in caves and takes care of them. But the thing is, he's faithful, but secretly faithful. So Obadiah comes to Ahab, and in verse 5, Ahab says to Obadiah, "Go through the land to all the springs of water and to all the valleys. Perhaps we may find grass and save the horses and mules alive and not lose some of the animals." So they divided the land between them to pass through it. And Ahab went in one direction by himself, and Obadiah went in another direction by themselves. So what's going on is Ahab says, like, the animals are about to die. We got to go find some stuff. I don't trust anybody else to do this. Like the king says, I don't trust anybody else to do this. So I'm going to personally take half my animals. Because if I send somebody else, they may keep it for themselves or sell it off to somebody else. So I'm going to take half myself, and my most trusted servant is going to take the other half. And we're going to go throughout all the land looking for something, anything, to try to keep the animals alive. And in verse 7, they split up. And as Obadiah is on the way, behold, Elijah met him. And Obadiah recognized him and fell on his face and said, "Is it you, my lord Elijah?" And he answered him, "It is. Go and tell your lord, behold, Elijah is here." So this is all really good timing in the way that this works out. Because remember, nobody knows who Elijah is. He showed up out of the wilderness. Nobody knows who he is. But Obadiah, because he works in the palace, was there when Elijah came through. He's just one of the few people that would know who Elijah is. So Obadiah just so happens to be the guy that he runs into. Not just so happens. God works this out, that he knows who he is. And he sees him and recognizes, like, this is Elijah. Everybody's been looking for Elijah. Everybody's been trying to find you for 3.5 years. And I'm the guy that finds you. So he falls down in face and says, "Is it really you?" And he says, "Yeah, go back and tell Ahab that you found me. I'm right here. Tell him to come and get me." But in verse 9, Obadiah's response is not what you would expect it to be. Obadiah says, "How have I sinned that you would give your servant into the hand of Ahab to kill me?" Like his response is, "What did I do wrong that you would give me this job? What did I do wrong that you would send me back to Ahab to tell him that I found you? What did I do wrong that you would give me this job?" Verse 10, "As the Lord your God lives, there is no nation or kingdom where my Lord has not sent to seek you. And when they would say, 'He is not here,' he would take an oath of the kingdom or nation that they had not found you. And now you say, 'Go tell your Lord, behold, Elijah is here.'" Verse 12, "And as soon as I have gone from you, the Spirit of the Lord will carry you, I do not know where. And so when I come and tell Ahab, and he cannot find you, he will kill me, although I, your servant, have feared the Lord from my youth." He said, "Why would I do this? Ahab has been looking for you for years, and here's what he's done. He looked all throughout the country. He sent soldiers all over the country looking for you. He wanted to find you. So he's gone through houses. He's turned over houses. They killed a bunch of people. They did all these things looking for you. When they couldn't find you here, he's gone to all the neighboring countries, and he's gone and he's threatened war. He goes to kings, and he has threatened war with that country. And he's made them search for you, and he's made them swear oaths that they couldn't find you, that they weren't keeping you there and protecting you. And if they wouldn't swear an oath, he's threatened war against them. He's had people killed for suspecting that they were hiding you. And if I go and say, hey, guess what? I found him, and God protects you like he's done for the last 3.5 years, I'm dead. That's what happens. I'm dead. Why would I risk this? Why would I take a step of faith in this area? Why would I risk this when God's just going to protect you and leave me hanging? Do you not understand the situation that you're putting me into? Verse 13, has it not been told, my Lord, what I did when Jezebel killed the prophets of the Lord? How I hid 100 men of the Lord's prophets by 50s in a cave and fed them with bread and water. And now you say, go tell your Lord, behold, Elijah is here. He will kill me. The thing about Obadiah is he is a faithful guy. He loves the Lord. He loves the work of the Lord. He loves the ministry of the Lord. He does not agree with what Ahab is doing. He is against it. He even works against what Ahab is doing. But he has drawn a firm line between his two worlds. He's got his personal life where he is faithful, where he loves God, where he does the work of the Lord and serves God, and then he's got this world over here where he works for Ahab. And when he works for Ahab, that's separate. He does what Ahab wants for him. He does what Ahab tells him to do. He doesn't bring up God. He doesn't do any of those things. That's for over there. When he's over here, he'll use all the resources at his disposal to do the work of God. He will show up at church. He will worship. He'll participate in the ministry, whatever needs to be done. He is faithful and loves God and do everything. But when he's over here, that's a separate thing. God is faithful over here. God will take care of him. He'll risk his life to hide 100 prophets over here. But over here, I'm not even going to bring up that I've seen Elijah. Because faith is on this side of the line. And we don't take steps of faith over here. And for Obadiah, this makes a lot of sense. Right? Because think of all the good he can do with these worlds divided. Think about all the good he can accomplish as long as he keeps a firm line right here. See, if I don't rock the boat, what can happen is I have a ton of resources I can use to do the work of God. I can provide for the prophets. I can provide for the ministry. I can keep things going. And over here, if I just keep my mouth shut and I just keep my faith quiet over here, and I don't bring any of that stuff up over here, then over here, I can do so much good for the work of the ministry. So Obadiah's like this. All right, let's do this. How about we don't rock the boat? How about we just keep things the way they are? And Elijah, you go talk to Ahab, and you tell Ahab you're here, and then we don't have to mess with anything. And I can keep being secret, and I can keep funding everything that needs to get done because I got a good job, and I don't have to mess with anything, and we can keep making sure the ministry happens, and I can keep doing everything that needs to be done, and I'll just keep this part over here secret when I'm with Ahab. When I'm at work, all of this is secret. And when I'm not at work, I'm going to sing, and I'll raise my hands, and I'll pray, and I'll lead Bible studies, and I'll do whatever I got to do. As long as over here I can be quiet and keep this separate and we don't rock the boat, I can do so much good over here. Just let me keep these things separate. Let's not rock the boat. Just imagine what we can do. If Elijah, if you do the faith thing and you take these steps of faith, I can do whatever you need me to. You need a raise? Because I can give more. As long as I can keep these worlds separate, I got money. I can give you a raise. You need to bring somebody else on staff? We can do that. I can give more. We can do that. And then both of you can be faithful as long as I don't have to rock the boat. We need to build another building? I can do that. We can just give some more money as long as I don't have to rock the boat. As long as I don't have to cross the line and mess things up, as long as I can keep things separate, there's so much I can accomplish. But if I have to rock the boat, we're risking it all. Where are we going to be if I have to rock the boat and I lose my job? Where are we going to be if I have to rock the boat and I die? What's going to happen to the ministry? What's going to happen to the ministry if we rock the boat? What's going to happen to those prophets in a cave if we rock the boat? No, I think it's better. I think it's better if we just keep this line and we keep things separate. I think that's better. What's going to happen if I bring up the gospel with that family group? I mean, we go to Thanksgiving, and those, they really like to hear the gospel anyway. So I'm not going to bring it up there. I'm just going to kind of keep it on the down low. And I know at church we talk about all that stuff, and I'm 100% for it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great. We should definitely do that. Somebody should anyway. But I definitely think we should. But if I go to that family group, they're not interested. So I'm not going to bring it up over there, because if I bring it up over there, that's going to rock the boat. And maybe one day I'll get a chance to, but if I rock the boat right now, there's never going to be an opportunity to. Maybe I'll be able to invite them to something that Ben will be at, right? Maybe I'll be able to invite them to something that Ben will be at, and he'll be able to talk to them about that. But if I rock the boat right now, that's never going to happen. Those friends, they're just not interested. They're not interested in the gospel at all. And if I share the gospel with them right now, or if I try to talk to them about this right now, they're just not going to have anything to do with me anymore. So I already know this, so I'm not going to rock the boat. But maybe somebody else will share the gospel with them, and because I've stayed neutral on this, I'll be able to be kind of a neutral third party that's never pushed them on this, and I'll be able to step in and kind of give them an unbiased opinion on it, right? If I don't rock the boat. But if I rock the boat right now, I won't be able to be there. So I think let's just keep the line right now. Let's keep it separate right now. That way in the future, right? In the future, I might have the opportunity. We keep these separate worlds, and it all makes sense. And Obadiah says, you don't understand what we're risking here. Of course, my life, right? If I'm wrong, if God doesn't come through, I risk my life. But even if God does come through, if Ahab associates you with me, and he finds out that I'm a secret believer, I could lose everything. And if I lose everything, think about how that hurts the ministry. If I just keep my faith a secret when I'm on this side of the line, I can do so much good on this side of the line. And I just don't know that it's worth the risk. Obadiah says, how have I sinned? How have I sinned that you would ask me to bridge these two worlds? How have I sinned that you would ask me to trust God as much on this side of the line as I do on this side of the line? What have I done wrong that you would ask me to take this small step of faith? We live in these separate worlds, and we've got all these reasons. We got all these excuses. We got all these things that we're waiting on. We're just waiting on the right moment. I'm just waiting on the perfect timing. I just got to get past this hurdle. And all of those excuses are just a cover-up for the fact that we think God is trustworthy on this side of the line, but he's not trustworthy on this side of the line. Because what is Obadiah saying? He's saying, I trust God enough to put my resources into the ministry. I trust God enough to give to the ministry, to take care of these prophets. I trust God enough to do all these things over here. I trust God enough as long as my boss doesn't know about it. But I don't trust God enough over here. He said, if I tell Ahab this, then God's just going to take you away and then I'm going to die. I don't trust God enough to go and tell my boss, this is what God says. I don't trust God enough to just take this small step of faith. And think about what he's saying. He didn't say, go stand on the table in the cafeteria and preach the gospel. He said, just go tell God, just go tell Ahab that you saw me. That was it. It wasn't the gospel. It wasn't disciple your coworkers. It wasn't do some crazy thing. It was just obey God in this one little thing. But to Obadiah, it was like world-changing, huge, earth-shattering, gonna collapse everything to obey God on this side of the line. And it wasn't even that big of a deal. All he said was, just go tell him you saw me. And Obadiah's response is just like paragraphs long. I can't trust God on this side of the line. I can only trust God on the weekend. I can only trust God with church stuff. I can only trust God if my boss doesn't know. I can't trust God over here. He's like, I just told you to tell him you saw me. Like, that's literally all I'm asking for is tell him you saw me. But what if, but what if, but what if, but what if, but what if? If God can be trusted on this side of the line, then God can be trusted on this side of the line. If he can't be trusted on this side of the line, you can't trust him over here either. So which is it? It makes sense to adapt because you know what? You should talk less around certain people. It makes sense to adapt because the way that you have to operate at work, because your job is to be an auditor or to be in HR or to be a boss or a supervisor, or you got your hands in people's mouths and you got to talk differently to people when they're scared of the dentist. Like, you have to behave differently at work than you do at home. That makes sense. But why is it that you have faith on this side of the line, but you don't have faith on this side of the line? Why are you a different person on this side of the line than you are on this side of the line? Why do you change from one person to another? Why is God faithful over here but not faithful over here? And we've got these things like, I can't obey God, and it's these earth-shattering things that's like God is asking us to move mountains or something. And the request that he's making is so small. Elijah says, hey, can you just go tell Ahab, since you're going home anyway, did you work there? Can you just tell him that you saw me? I'm back. Obadiah loses his mind. I can't bridge these two worlds. I can't bridge these two. What are you asking of me? What do you do? I can't bridge it. And then Elijah says this in verse 15. As the Lord lives, as the Lord of hosts lives, before whom I stand, I will surely show myself to him today. Calm down. I'm not lying to you. God is faithful. You trust him over here. You trusted him enough to divert resources to take care of these prophets. You trusted him enough to worship him. You trusted enough to be faithful to him when the entire country was against you in secret. Just trust him over here. Just go do what I said. So verse 16. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. And that was the end of it. It was the end of the whole story. That's it. That's what happened. It's like, I can't do this. I can't do it. I'm so scared I can't do it. And the end of the story, Ahab's like, oh, thanks for telling me. End of story. Probably not even the end of the story. Because Ahab has been looking for this guy for 3.5 years. Soldiers can't find him. Kings can't find him. Queens can't find him. Ambassadors can't find him. He's been threatening war over this. And then Obadiah finds him. Do you think he didn't get a reward from this? Do you think he didn't get a promotion and a raise out of this? When nobody else can do this thing and Obadiah does this thing, you didn't think he'd get a reward out of this? I guarantee you he got a bonus out of this. At least. He's freaking out over this thing. This thing that seems like such a huge step to him, but to all of us is like, dude, chill out. This is so small. This is such a small act of faith you're being asked to take. But to him, it's the whole world. And he's so scared. But the end result, at worst, is nothing. And at best is a bonus. And then they move on. And nothing happens. And honestly, the thing that you're so scared of is probably the same. The thing that you're so scared of obeying, like this earth-shattering thing that you're so scared of taking this step, like you're over here and you're at church and you're singing the songs and you're loving it and you're seeing your friends and you go to small group and you give your money and you're so excited of it, and then you go to work and you're like, or you're around your church friends and you're talking about faith and you're praying for each other and you're so happy to be in a discipleship relationship and you're doing all these things, and then you're around your friends from the other group of friends and you're like, you're around these people that are closer to you than your own family, that you lean on, that are the people that show up for you. And then you go around your actual family and you wish you had that kind of relationship, but you just close in on yourself and don't even try because of how bad it's been in the past. And God's like, just take a step. Take a step. I'm like, I can't. The world will explode. I was like, no. You trust me over here. Just trust me over here. And most of the time, when you take that step, you realize that was nothing. Nothing happened. The world did not end. I didn't lose my job. My life's actually better now than it was before. And you know what? Sometimes you might get fired. You might. That friend might not want to talk to you anymore. If that happens, you probably did it wrong, but they might not want to talk to you anymore. That family member may cut you off. That's true. It's unlikely, but it's true. But if those things happen, God is still as able to provide for you and take care of you on this side of the line as he is over there. Some of you trust God for your day-to-day life to teach you how to live and how to treat people, but you don't trust him for eternity. You think, like, loving your neighbor, that's a good idea. I can trust him on that. Forgiving people, I feel a lot better when I forgive people. I can trust him on that. But the idea of surrendering myself and admitting that I am not good enough to stand before God on my own and I need somebody else to stand before me and I've got to trust him to do that for me, I can't trust him on this side of the line. But if he's right over there, he's right over here. You are a sinner, and the whole reason he came to give his life up for you is because you're not good enough on your own, and you need someone else to stand before God for you. And the only way that you get that is if you admit that you need him because you're not good enough. You believe that he's the only Son of God and the only one that can stand in your place. And you cry out to him and say, I can't do this and I need you to do it for me. And you trust in him. Not trust in him like a life insurance policy, but trust in him like a parachute that you strap him on and jump. Some of you are different people at work than you are at home and you are here. And you've used the excuse that it's okay because what you get from work does something for your family that you can't give them unless you're a different person at work than you are at home and you are here. That you do good things for the church because of the money you make. I'm going to tell you something. God is richer than you, and he can give us whatever we need without your job. He can give your family whatever you need without your job. That is an excuse, and it's not a good one. And if being the same person over here that you are over there costs you that job, it's worth it. He's got more. And I have a feeling that if you just took that small step of faith that he's calling you to at work, you probably wouldn't lose your job anyway. It's probably not going to be as bad as you think it is. He can probably bless you more than you think he can. And those family and friends that you're just building up to, that you're just waiting on the right moment to share the gospel with, you're waiting on the right moment to talk to. I know you're waiting on the right moment, but how many years are you planning to wait? I mean, 1, 5, 20? You still going to be waiting when you meet Jesus? You're called to be an ambassador to them. And if you love them, share the gospel with them. Stop waiting on the right moment. Lean into the awkwardness and share the gospel with them. We should not be secret believers. We say, well, I love them and I'm afraid of losing them. I'm afraid that if I take this step of faith that Jesus is calling me to, that I'm going to lose that friend. I'm going to lose that family member. I get it. I understand. But I would rather you take the risk of losing them for the short term and have the opportunity to gain them for eternity than to keep them for the short term and to lose them for eternity. If you really love them, seek to gain them for eternity. And if you'll be kind about it, if you don't go at it as a jerk, if you approach them with love, you probably won't lose them. No guarantee. But most people can understand that you love them by the way that you treat them. So stop using the excuse that you're waiting to the right opportunity. Admit that you're just scared. And trust him as much on this side of the line as you do on this one. Most of us don't create these lines on purpose. We don't. Maybe it was you're a believer and you come into a situation, you're like, I'm just going to work myself up to it. You know, it's a new job. I'm just going to work myself up to it. So you've got a line and you're like, I'm just going to go easy on it. I'm going to build myself up. I'm going to get there slowly. And then you've been there a year, and then you've been there 5 years, and then you've been there 10 years, and all of a sudden, without meaning to, you just never got there, and now you have a line. And you're a different person on different sides of the line. Or maybe you didn't start a believer, but you came to know Jesus or you grew in your faith until you became a different person. And now the line is there, not because you drew a line where you could be somebody different on the other side, but you came to know Jesus, and there's your old life on the other side, and you've not figured out how to take those people that you knew before and introduce them to who you are now. And I don't know what step of faith God is calling you to. I don't know what he's asking of you, but here's what I know. Obadiah was called to a small step of faith to cross the line. He was terrified to do it. But he trusted that God would be faithful as much on one side of the line as the other. And when he took that step of faith, it wasn't nearly as bad as he thought it was going to be. And I know that you're terrified. But I promise you that your God is as faithful on that side of the line as he is on this one. So tear up the line. And let God into both sides. Because once you take that step, you're going to realize you had nothing to be afraid of. Would you stand with me? Our Heavenly Father, we come before you, and I'm so grateful that you are patient and that you are kind. And Lord, I have no rocks to throw at Obadiah. He is a faithful guy that loved you. And he did his best to honor and serve you in a difficult situation. And I can't say that I would have been a proud, open believer under the reign of Ahab and Jezebel. I can't say that I would have. And when he was given an opportunity to take a small step of faith, he was afraid, but he took it. And you were faithful on both sides of the line. And Lord, I don't think there's anybody in this room that looks at this and says, no, I don't trust you. I think there's fear. I think there's worry about family. I think there's worry about relationships. But I ask that you would give us the same kind of bravery that you gave Obadiah. To take a small step of faith to cross the line. To obey not just in the weekend, not just in the church world, but to be faithful and to trust you on both sides of the line. If there's any today, Lord, that's in this room that trusts you for interacting on a daily basis, that trusts you for how to treat other people, but doesn't trust you for eternity, I ask that they would take that step to trust you. If there's any in the room that trusts you for the weekend, but not at work, I ask that they would take a step of faith this week. If there's any that trust you with the people in this room, but not with their family and not with the friends that aren't in this room, I ask that they would take that step this week. And I ask that you would be as patient and kind with us as you are with Obadiah. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.